Hey up there! Right, the weather's starting to improve a little bit, so I might be able to get on with that Honda GB350S project in the next week or so. First of all, I don't say this enough, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for the comments that you leave on the various videos that I make. It's a gold mine of information when it comes to looking for ideas for videos. In fact, some of the most popular videos that I've produced over the years have been as a result or prompted by comments that have been left on various videos. So thanks for that, I really appreciate it. Now rest assured, I do read each and every single comment that's left on this channel, or at least those that I know about. I know some do slip through the net. YouTube sends me push notifications at least every hour, every day, letting me know that new comments have been left. I always go straight on there as soon as I can, to go through those comments and leave a like on them. Now, there is one subject that's been cropping up more and more over the last 18 months, maybe 2 years, and that's the subject as to whether oversaturation of Royal Enfield content here on YouTube is killing off the brand. I'm going to cover that off in detail, but just a couple of little things first, because I've done a lot of research on this question and a few other sort of viewers' niggles have come to light, which I'd like to address. They are sort of related anyway. First of all, the length of videos. Now, I do get these complaints occasionally in the comments section, at least a couple of weeks, but when I was researching the subject, the main subject of this video on the various motorcycle forums, it kept cropping up on there as well, not directed at me, but just directed at YouTube channels in general, and that is that a lot of the videos are too long, they're like 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long, even 20 minutes long, and people don't like it. They want a quick fix, short, sharp, to the point delivery of the information that they particularly want, and then they want to be able to move on to the next video. I mean, this is sort of TikTok's influence, I suppose, on the whole sort of video industry. The Chinese video platform where intelligence goes to die. Now, YouTube does have the Shorts platform on here. I have had a little dabble with it. Now, it doesn't really work for a lot of subjects. It's fine for just showing off to an audience online, for people that just crave attention, but if you want to convey actual information, it's pretty useless. Now, the YouTube platform isn't just contained in one server, in one building, in one country. It's an international network, so it has massive servers situated all over the world, and it costs an estimated $11 billion a year just to keep the lights on, which equates to about $30 million a day. So YouTube has to make about $30 million a day just to keep the lights on before anybody makes any money out of it. Now, YouTube makes this money by showing advertising on the videos. Advertising companies don't like short videos because short videos don't promote what they call engagement, and if there's no engagement, they won't pay the rates for advertising on them. So YouTube has always favoured long-form videos. The optimal length is about 15 minutes. So YouTube channels are prompted to make longer videos because if they don't, the algorithm is far less likely to actually show them to prospective viewers. So they won't get any exposure. It's as simple as that. For the people that have complained about it, the reason you've been shown long-form videos is because the algorithm basically hides the short-form videos. They are there, it's just that the algorithm doesn't want to show them to you. Now, the other thing that I'm increasingly been asked, and when I've got this bit out the way, we'll get on to the main subject, is, what are my opinions of YouTube channels that buy motorcycles? And I think they're talking mainly about Royal Enfield. They just keep them for a short time and then they sell them and buy another one. Now, I don't actually know what channels they're talking about because no names have been named. I know they don't mean this channel because, generally speaking, I keep bikes for at least 5 years. I've got bikes that I started off with on this channel that I still own 10 years later, so they're definitely not talking about me. But as I say, no names have been mentioned, so I don't really know where this is coming from. I'm presuming that somebody's made a video criticising it. I don't know, because as I've said on this channel time and time again, I don't watch other motorcycle channels. I like my opinions to be my opinions, not someone else's, so I don't watch them in fear that might influence the content that I produce. But what I will say, my opinion is, at the end of the day, it's their channel, it's their money, it's up to them to do whatever they feel like doing with that money. Now, the way I see it is that if they're good at the job and they keep at it, within a couple of years, they will be in a position to get press bikes. If not, they're probably never going to make it. But I'm certainly not going to criticise them either way for taking the initiative to put the money down on a bike and use that as the basis of the channel for a while. Now, there is a caveat to this, because I think this is partly what has led to the perception that Royal Enfield content is oversaturated or over-represented on YouTube, and people are saying to me that they're getting fed up of it, so much so that over the weekend I did a bit of research on the forums, and yes, indeed, it does seem to be a general consensus that the brand is sort of getting tarnished now by just oversaturation, especially on YouTube. Now, just as a bit of background, if you're new to this channel, I started off this channel with BMWs, I then moved over to Triumph, and then in 2019, or just prior to 2019, Royal Enfield released the first sort of proper new bike in decades, or two new models, the Interceptor 650 and the Continental GT. And being somebody who's been riding for approaching half a century now, I instantly recognised that this bike has been a hit, despite the fact that the legacy media regarding motorcycles was criticising it quite heavily. At that time, Royal Enfield was a bit of a joke in the motorcycle world. There's no two ways about it. They weren't taken seriously, but I saw something in the Interceptor that I just knew that bike was going to be a hit. So when they came out, I bought one. I was pretty much the first established channel to do that. I got a lot of criticism for doing it, especially from Triumph and BMW owners. I know for the first couple of months I thought I'd made a big mistake because the channel seemed to crash, but then things started to take off. Other people realised that actually this is a pretty decent bike, so other channels started to feature it. Now, Royal Enfield motorcycles and the history of my family are sort of intertwined. My dad had an ex-World War II Bullet 350 packed up in the backyard when I was born. He didn't ride it anymore, it was a wreck. But, that was the first bike that really sort of got me into motorcycles. So in 2020, when I heard that the Classic and the Bullet 500 had been discontinued, I ran around and managed to secure one of the last new models available in the UK. And obviously, I featured that on the channel for a while, and I still have it. Now, whether I was instrumental in this or not, Royal Enfield, during the space of that time, went from a motorcycle industry joke to a major player in the international motorcycle market. Other established UK channels started to follow my lead, and it became a mainstream motorcycle brand. Then in mid-2021, the marketing company that worked for Royal Enfield got in touch with me, and as recognition for the work that I'd put into helping to raise the profile of the Royal Enfield brand, they offered to put me on the press list and give me access to press bikes. Now, obviously, I welcomed this with open arms because it made life a lot easier for me, but that was the first inkling that I got that things were possibly going in the wrong direction, and that's what leans into all these comments and entries on the various forums have been saying. For a start, everybody was jumping on the Royal Enfield bandwagon. Not necessarily a bad thing, but to me, it was the quality of some of the sort of Royal Enfield videos that were putting out that were a bit of a concern. You know, prompted by comments on my channel, I had a look at some of them, and basically they were just copying some of the videos that I had already made. They were sort of reruns of videos that I had already published. And then in late 2021 or mid-2022, I can't quite remember when it was, Royal Enfield invited me to the launch of the Scram 411. Now, it was an enjoyable experience, but I also felt a bit uncomfortable, a bit like a fish out of water, because for a start, the marketing company that Royal Enfield employed were not motorcyclists. That was clear. They just didn't understand motorcycling. And what they were doing, they were leaning into the hipster lifestyle. That's what they thought motorcycling was all about. And the people that I actually encountered at that launch, for the most part, they were the sort of Instagram lovies, influencers type people. The hello darling crowd. Most of them didn't seem that interested in motorcycles, which wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting to meet people that sort of live and breathe motorcycles, and these people were nothing of the sort. If you tried to strike up a conversation about the bikes, they weren't interested. Now, there were one or two what I would call respectable journalists there. There was a representative from The Guardian and, you know, a few of the sort of larger channels that I'm sure you watch. But for the most part, there were just lifestyle influencers. You know, the young ladies that were there, very attractive, slim young ladies, but they didn't seem interested in the bikes. They seemed more interested in looking good in the skin-tight leathers and taking artistic photographs of the breakfasts that they were offered alongside their expensive sunglasses. I honestly, for the life of me, just couldn't work out what they were doing at a bike launch. Now, I've never said anything about this because at the time I just thought it was me. I thought, you know, it's just me being a lot older than everybody else that was there and being totally out of sync with what is the norm nowadays. But this actually ties in to a lot of the complaints that I get both in the comments on this channel and a lot of the comments that I read on those forums over the weekend. That not only is, you know, the YouTube platform and other social media platforms sort of oversaturated with Royal Enfield content, it's oversaturated with irrelevant Royal Enfield content created by people that don't really have an awful lot of knowledge about motorcycling. Now, on this particular day at the launch, Royal Enfield worked us quite hard. We covered quite a lot of miles riding in a group with some professional riders to keep us all in order. And I saw some of the worst riding that I've ever seen in my life. Now, it was an organised ride led by professional riders, and we'd been briefed at the beginning not to overtake the lead rider, yet, you know, some of the younger men were overtaking him and the lead rider was having to go off and find them and sort of bring them back and pull them back into order. In fact, at times it seemed so dangerous with a lot of these novice riders that I just put myself right at the back of the crowd and kept well back. Every time we stopped, some of the young ladies were complaining that they were cold and they hadn't expected to be riding so much. Now, most of the professional journalists ducked out quite early. I think they were getting a bit fed up by the whole situation, and, you know, the people that they were rubbing shoulders with, and a lot of them went home early. In fact, I myself left before the event was finished because, you know, as nice as these people were, they just weren't motorcyclists. And I think what was going through my mind at the time is that Royal Enfield has always portrayed itself to be a brand of motorcycle for motorcyclists, yet at this launch the majority of the people that were there were anything but. They were more interested in promoting themselves and the clothes that they were wearing, and they weren't really interested in the bikes. Now, after that, I started to pay attention, not necessarily watching the videos, but I started to pay attention to, you know, the kind of people that Royal Enfield were passing the press bikes onto. And there were a very similar sort of group of people. influencers, not motorcyclists that run a motorcycle channel. There were influencers that just happened to have a bike license as well. And that is one of the biggest complaints that, I read on the forums, that, people, they see a new channel, showing Royal Enfield motorcycles. At first they think it's refreshing, they start watching it, but after about 3 videos they realise that the person that's running this channel knows nothing about motorcycles, and they click off and they look elsewhere. All of Royal Enfield's marketing seems to be sort of channelled towards the hipster motorcyclist lifestyle, and that's not what most of us are about. People that have a passion for riding motorcycles, people that buy these Royal Enfield motorcycles, don't fit into that category. And it's hard to get away from it, because I know in my feed it's just one Royal Enfield video after another. People that sort of appear on the scene, make a few videos, disappear, then they're replaced by someone else, and it's an endless cycle without any real information on the bikes. The complaints that I hear on these forums is that, it's just people reading all the technical specifications from the brochure, but not actually providing any useful insight in the review of the motorcycle. In fact, it goes a bit deeper than that, because, as a lot of the commenters have said, a lot of these people are just plagiarising previous reviews that they've watched. They don't have the ability, if you like, to properly assess a bike, so they're just repeating information that they've heard from some of the earlier videos that have gone out. And then people buy those bikes and find that information is incorrect, because the original person that posted that information got it wrong, and then everyone else has copied that from them. That's why I don't watch other people's videos, because I want my opinions to be my opinions, not just a repeat of someone else's opinion. I mean, it'd be a lot easier for me if I did it that way, but that's not a proper review. I know I don't always tell people what they want to hear. The way I see it is that, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what I think you need to know. It's okay employing the hello darling lovey crowd to market your bike, but they're not necessarily the right people to actually review it. And it's become quite clear to me that Royal Enfield fans are starting to sort of get a bit turned off by the brand because of this approach to reviews. There's more to reviewing motorcycles than just having, a cool personality or long blonde hair and a skin-tight leather jacket and jeans. You need to have the knowledge and experience to go with it. And it seems to me, from the hundreds of accounts that I have read over the weekend, that some of your Royal Enfield fans are starting to feel a bit insulted by it. They seem to have got past the point where they're willing to just sit and listening to an influencer gushing about how wonderful Royal Enfield motorcycles are. They want more informed information and less superficial content. Now, going back to that question that I've been asked so many times over the last year, is it destroying the brand? No, I don't think it is. I think Royal Enfield owners, Royal Enfield fans are, quite a loyal bunch, but there's no doubt about it, this approach to selecting who gets the press bikes is causing damage. Now, I think this has mainly been down to the marketing company that Royal Enfield originally employed. I think they've been the main driver of this behaviour. The good news is, I think Royal Enfield realised that they were heading in the wrong direction, and they terminated the contract with this company early to middle of last year, because they were definitely not the right company for promoting a motorcycle brand. hopefully they've realised the error of the direction that that marketing company was taking the brand in, and they've decided to take a hold of the reins and bring it back from the brink. Because there's no doubt about it, it was causing damage. I pulled away from the brand a little bit sort of 18 months ago and started introducing different brands to the channel, because although this had been predominantly a Royal Enfield channel and I'd intended buying more Royal Enfield bikes as time went on, I wasn't feeling comfortable with the direction that the persona of the brand was going in. And it was becoming obvious that a lot of viewers were feeling the same way. I mean, I fully understand that any motorcycle company wants to bring young riders into the fold because that's their future, but you've got to strike a balance, and it all just seemed to be weighted in the sort of bright young thing direction. Influencers rather than motorcycle enthusiasts. Now, funnily, I expected to see a drop in revenue on this channel when I introduced other bikes, because I certainly got a lot of pushback from some viewers, but I haven't. And I did a test over last week. There's a new sort of system when you title your videos where you can choose several different titles, and it will offer all those different titles to different audiences to see which is the most popular. Now, a couple of years ago, if you put Royal Enfield in the title of your video, it would guarantee good views. But oddly enough, on this new system where I offered the name Honda, Royal Enfield and BSA for the same video in one title, Royal Enfield didn't come up very well at all. It certainly doesn't attract views like it used to. And as I said in a video about 7 or 8 months ago, keeping an eye on thumbnails of some of the big channels when they've sort of made videos about the launch of new Royal Enfield bikes, they're not getting anywhere near the views that they used to get. It certainly seems to me that the excessive Royal Enfield content here on YouTube is starting to cloy with a lot of viewers. As a kid, I always loved fish and chips. It was a rare treat, maybe once a month, something like that. But, I certainly couldn't eat it for every meal, every day. And the evidence that I've seen over this last week or so when I've been researching this is that oversaturation of superficial Royal Enfield content here on YouTube is starting to have that effect on people. Let me know what your views are in the comments section down below. Right, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you would leave a like and hit that hype button if it is available to you. There are other ways you can help me out by subscribing to this channel if you're not already a subscriber, or you could make a donation via PayPal, sign up to my Patreon account, or use the super thanks button down below. Not essential, but it is appreciated. It helps to keep me going. I will of course be back on Friday, so until then, please ride safely and I'll see you soon.